Welcome back, everyone, to another week of Remarks. Thank you so much for watching. For all of our Carolina Panthers coverage, we've got so much stuff down from Spartanburg, and we will have stuff throughout the rest of the preseason. Head on over to charlotteobserver.com, check out our stories, and we appreciate you guys supporting our local journalism. Please consider subscribing. So on last week's episode of Remarks, we went deep into depth on quarterback Cam Newton, and obviously Cam is still in the process of rehabbing from arthroscopic shoulder surgery that he had back in January. But just as important to this team as his Cam is the people who are getting after him in Spartanburg the last couple of weeks, and that's namely on the defensive side of the ball. And specifically this year, on the defensive side of the ball, the Panthers are going to look a lot different than they have in years past. And that's because they're switching to something called a 3-4 defense. Now, the Panthers are still going to incorporate some of the same looks that they did last year. There are going to be times when they've got Mario Addison and first-round pick Brian Burns just screaming off the edge of the ball, going after Matt Ryan and Drew Brees, just as you all have come to know and love. But at the same time, there are going to be some very noticeable differences. It's going to impact the way that the Panthers try and attack opposing offenses. So what the hell is a 3-4 defense? And to try and explain this, let's go to the whiteboard, and I've got my handy-dandy remarker. Kidding, seriously, we're not going to use that. We're not going to go overboard on the name puns. Last year, when the Panthers had a 4-3 defense, this is where Cam Newton would be. You know, he's the opposing quarterback, or Drew Brees, or whoever you're feeling particularly angsty about that particular week. And across from him, you would have 4 different defensive linemen lined up. You have 3 linebackers in behind them. So the way that scheme is supposed to work is these guys come off the edge to try and get to the quarterback. And these guys are blocking the run and trying to do the same. Then these linebackers can fill in these gaps here and try and come after either the quarterback or the running back, depending on the play, whatever it is. Now, let's get rid of that. Now what we have is you have 3 down linemen compared to 4 linebackers. These 2 outside players, think of like a Mario Addison and a Bruce Irvin type. Those are guys who are going to have a lot more flexibility. They can either come off their respective edges, or they can come inside, or they can drop back altogether, or they can all overload to one side. The point is, there are a ton of different options. That's how the team is going to be able to disguise its blitzes, its run coverages, everything. So why now? Why are the Panthers making a switch to a 3-4 defense? And basically, you can look at one statistic overall and it points you there. It's the fact that last year the team was 27th in the NFL in sacks, and out of 32 teams, you don't need to be a math whiz to know that that's not good. The purpose of a 3-4 is to get fast, athletic linebackers on the edges, gunning after the quarterback full speed ahead. I mean, you want those guys on a Wile E. Coyote line straight to Drew Brees if you can. On the edge, the position that they're most looking to enhance by making this move, they've got a stupid amount of guys. I mean, it is ridiculous the depth they have at defensive ends / outside linebackers / hybrids / whatever the heck we want to call these guys. Now on the flip side, when you have a 3-4 defense and you have so many linebackers coming off the edge, it raises some questions about the effectiveness of the team's run defense. Last year, going into the year, the Panthers had this crazy streak. They hadn't allowed a 100-yard rusher in over a calendar year. That's pretty damn impressive. And then they get to the Atlanta Falcons game in week 2, that falls apart, and sort of the spiral began from there for the rest of the season. And this move doesn't necessarily mean that problem is going to be fixed. If anything, the scheme is more conducive to allowing running on the outside lanes. Because if you think about it strictly from a numbers game, if you've got 4 guys trying to stop the run versus 3 guys, which one's going to be more effective? The 4, of course. And the Panthers are going to still play some 4-3. It's not like they're making a wholesale change to the 3-4. It's going to be a hybrid. But on those early downs when they are in a 3-4, if a team is deciding to run, there's going to be outside running lanes. And with only Luke Kuechly and Shaq Thompson out there, you're asking a lot out of your linebackers to try and patch those run coverage holes. Here's some final thoughts. Start the play clock. Basically, what the Panthers are trying to do with this new 3-4 scheme is to create more pressure on the quarterback. Now, does that mean necessarily that it's going to make the entire defense better? No, not necessarily. It's going to make life a lot harder for Luke Kuechly and Shaq Thompson. Good thing that they are 1, athletic, and 2, smart enough to handle that. But it is a big ask on those guys. For the Panthers to have an effective defense in 2019 with this scheme, those outside linebackers are going to have to get pressure on the quarterback, because the Panthers really are trying to create coverage sacks. They want to make sure that the people in the front are getting pressure, and they're getting there so fast that the people in the back don't have to cover as long. That way, more sacks, more turnovers, more points for the Panthers, fewer for their opponents. Thanks so much, guys, for watching. We'll see you next week.